Hello, 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 and welcome to the Painter Brand Quarterly Slush Pile. We're so glad that you've chosen to click our button today, or however we might want to say it. Glad you're listening in to what will be an interesting and exciting editorial meeting, very much like the ones that we have privately. We're going to share with you our conversation about John Witowitz's poetry today. Um, so we ask submitters for permission to discuss their poems on air instead of privately. And they always say yes, pretty much always. And we've been doing this a long time. When did we figure it out? Wasn't it like 8 years?
8 million years.
It started before COVID. That's all I know. I only have
Yeah.
before COVID and after COVID.
True.
That's all I
Yes,
have.
yeah. Yeah, that's why we were so Zoom proficient when
We
all
were
of our
Zoom savvy before the
right.
lockdown.
Yeah, when all of our colleagues were going Zoom,
What is
Zoom.
this? Skype? What is
Ready,
this?
here we are.
Can you hear me? Can you see me?
I remember, Mary, too, when we would go to conferences afterwards, people would go, "Are you really in the UAE? And you're really in Philly? Come on. Sounds like you're in the same room." We were like, "It's a miracle."
Mhm.
But anyway, here it is. This is a miracle. This whole thing is so profoundly rewarding and a lovely experience for us. And the us is me, Kathleen Volkmiller. It's been me for
You're
a
a miracle.
while. I'm the miracle. And it's a miracle that Marion Wren is in our time zone. Hi, Mary.
Hi, I'm zooming in from North Carolina and in awe of the miraculous Kathleen Volkmiller, as always, and also in awe of my other North Carolinian friend. Hello, Lisa.
Hello, Marian. I'm so glad to have you in the same state with me and sweating in this boggy humidity today in our dome. It's fantastic. And I'm Lisa Zirkle, and I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I will bounce it over to Jason Schneiderman.
Hi, it's Jason. I am in Manhattan. I am in New York, but I will be in North Carolina very soon. So if you're still both there, we'll have to
When?
get together. July 3rd to the 13th. I'll be teaching at
Perfect.
Warren Wilson. And I'll welcome our newest podcaster, Manuel.
Oh, hello. Hi. My name is Manuel. I'm currently in the UAE, in Abu Dhabi, to be more specific. I am 22 years old, if that is, I just graduated.
Congratulations.
Hey, congratulations. And Manuel, you get to pick somebody. So Isabel, how about Isabel?
Yeah,
Hello, I'm in Philly just on this regularly hot Friday.
Uh,
It's rough today. It's rough here today. We've been having gorgeous weather, but today is not so gorgeous. And we've got Vivian on her
Hi,
own.
Vivian.
Vivian.
Oh, tell us about you, Vivian.
Nice to meet everyone here. I'm Vivian, and I'm a third year student at Drexel University, and I'm currently in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, all right.
You paused. I love that you paused. Like, anywhere. Could be
Where
anywhere.
am I? You could have made shit up, Vivian. We wouldn't know.
And I'm in the North Pole.
I could be.
She could have made up Pennsylvania. That could be not true. You know, it's funny, Manuel, I was waiting for everybody to go, and I was going, oh my gosh, we're all on the same time zone, which never happens. So I guess that never is going to still hold true. It's still not happening. It's the evening for you. Yeah. Well, thank you for spending some of your evening with us. And yeah, I think we're ready to, I'm sure John Witowitz is waiting if he's listening. So I think we should roll. And
Right.
I think we told Jason earlier to kick us off. So we've got 3 poems today, and Jason's gonna start.
All right. Kalyuchin Island is the title of this poem from John Witowitz. Aleutian Island. Polar bears have taken up residence within the marmalade walls of an abandoned weather station, the lone dwelling on a small island in the Kukchi Sea. This unexpected sanctuary, strategically located between Russia and Alaska, has a post-apocalyptic feel like the Statue of Liberty scene at the end of the first Planet of the Apes, but cuter. White-coated inhabitants can be seen sunning themselves on the front porch, poking frosty heads from turquoise window frames, wandering their 2.8-mile yard littered with rusted tanks and construction debris. Pierre Boulle never wrote a sequel to The Planet of the Apes. Man loses. The end. And with Earth's history of ruling classes and our self-destructive tendencies, this is the likely scenario. If by some grace we go out without taking every living thing with us, it gives me pleasure to picture a sleuth of grizzly bears as the heirs to Buckingham Palace. As a whole, extraterrestrial anthropologists will have to assume we cared very little about the Arctic fox, musk ox, and polar bear, dooming these life forms and then ourselves. And even though I didn't do much to stop it, I hope they'll find the remains of my glacial wall calendar and Arctic-themed necktie, or better yet, the yellowed receipt from a donation I plan on making to the World Wildlife Fund, and conclude that I was one of the good ones.
Woohoo! Thank you, Jason.
Beautifully read, Jason.
It's wonderfully parsed. Oh my God, slushies, look at the line breaks. Wow, like it's a master class in like parsing your syntax with the line. It's a pleasure to read. It just like it I mean, talk about like the line is the choreography of the breath on the page. Like, oh, it does a great job.
That's beautiful. Thank you for that, Jason. Yeah, slushies, there's no stanza breaks here. And I don't know what else to say. Go to pbqmag.org and take a look. Because the lines vary a lot in their length, from 3 words to 6 and 7. But yeah, thank you for that.
And speaking of line breaks, right, Jason, it was so delightful to hear you read. I want to call out 2 lines in particular. So one of them is at the end of the first Planet of the Apes, but cuter. Slushies, you would think there was a line break, right, on after Planet of the Apes, comma, but cuter. But cuter's actually on the same line. So the line runs really long, right? And at first I was a little itchy about that. I was like, why not break the line there? Why not break the line? And then when you read the last line of the poem, right, which is here, and conclude that I was one of the good ones, you read that with this beautiful pause and conclude that I was one of the good ones, made me realize how brilliant running that as a whole line is with I smack in the middle, right? Because it is absolutely like mocking virtue signing or virtue signaling, right?
Yeah.
And it is narcissistic in its way, and smack in the middle of the line is I. So yay, John Matowitz. Yay, I say to you. Yay, I say unto you. Yay.
Well,
Yeah, oh no, I was gonna say I'm heading to Warren Wilson, where I will be doing like where it's all craft all the time. So if I was going to say something about the structure of the poem, I would point out that it's a roughly 2 to 4 beat line. That in each line there's a very strong 2 to 4 stress pattern, with a couple of exceptions where conclude that I was one of the good ones gets to 5, and at the end of the Planet of the Apes, but cuter gets to 5, and you kind of get to that outline of the iambic pentameter almost. But it's so it's really smooth. Like the line breaks never push against the syntax. Like they're always kind of guiding you to read, and then they kind of pull over. And you're absolutely what Marion was saying about like but cuter and one of the good ones kind of pulling out almost as a tail or a coda after kind of the way we've been taught to read the line. It's really effective.
And
Nice.
Jason, I
Nice.
think the one exception to that, and appropriately so, is right in the middle. Man loses, the end.
Right.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
Mhm.
Ah,
So, and this might be more advice for our slushies. I read this and did not even think of researching the island and the polar bears and the reality of whatever this poem was about. And I was charmed by the poem and charmed by the images I had in my head and was picturing, these polar bears living in harmony in a place that used to be man's, right? And then Lisa decided to research that for us, and Dagny shared the link. And then I looked at the polar bears and I was dumbstruck by how close my imaginings were to the reality of those bears. And it was lovely to see them, though, too. So, slushies, you can also go take a look at these polar bears living on in human territory. But I think you don't even need to.
it's
The
so
images.
cute though. Oh my God, it's so
Really
cute.
good.
It's like
Your
just so
slushie,
cute.
you're gonna spend hours with these pictures.
Yeah.
And it's true that that first line, the polar bears have taken up residence. It's not that they're just, hanging out on the lawn, right? They're inside these houses and peeking
Yeah.
out the windows. That's the best part,
Yeah. The peeking out the window was so much, right? That was incredible. Like, what's up? Yeah.
You forget they're
So
killing machines. Like you
Right.
forget that they're like
They're gonna
watch them
shred.
eat a salmon and then you're like, oh. But yeah, like when they're lounging around on the lawn or poking out of windows, they look pretty cute.
yeah.
Oh, our impulse to anthropomorphize from polar bears to teapots.
Yeah.
Is that a Beauty and the Beast reference, Marion?
Thank you. You get me, Lisa.
Oh, well, it's our ego. It's our ego making everything like us or not.
Right. Which goes right back to, I think, the power of this poem being about ego. It's about polar bears, but about ego as well.
Yeah.
Well, and then the looking, right? That like we're the people looking at the polar bears and anthropomorphizing them, and then it ends with these alien anthropologists that we're also anthropomorphizing, who are going to have the same set of value systems that we do, who are going to like split us into the good people and the bad people, right? That like, I mean, the anthropomorphic imagination,
Doesn't
uh,
even.
That's
continues
true.
across the poem
Yeah.
in this really beautiful way that sort of brings it full circle at the end.
That
That's
might be the
so
title of the
interesting.
episode, Anthropomorphic Imagination.
Oh, Jason, I didn't even think of that. That's so great because not only will they label us and divide us, but they will value things as we do.
Exactly.
And one thing you can be sure about the future is they'll have the same value system as the present.
Okay. All right, so just to be devil's advocate a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So at my first read of this, I was surprised at how plain the language is, right? And it felt a little prosy, right? This unexpected sanctuary strategically located between Russia and Alaska has a post-apocalyptic feel, like the Statue of Liberty scene at the end of the first Planet of the Apes, but cuter, right? Like really just feels to me like a sentence, right? But as Jason pointed out, the breaking it up in the way that this poet does, right, really signals an acute sense of, as Jason's already pointed out, breath work, right? But I wonder what you all think about that. Like what was your reaction to what is plain language in this poem? Look at that, slushies. How to silence a conversation. Sorry.
I'm working.
Honestly,
Okay, Isabel, go
I'm
ahead.
so sorry. I was gonna say I honestly really appreciate it because I feel like there's no with such vivid imagery and with such a direct message. I feel like there's no need to speak in such big metaphors because the image itself exists as its own metaphor. And I feel like there's no need to talk so aggressively eloquent when I feel like he's just completely describing a picture and the message comes through not by his words but by the image he's kind of depicting.
Man loses the end. Right?
Well, I'm working on an essay right now about syntactic delay and the ways in which the sentence can function as a unit of suspense. And so I was really struck by the way like the opening and the ending are almost different. And so like the argument is sort of that, and this is, you know, unique to me, but that when you're dealing with an English sentence, you're kind of looking for the base clause or the fundament or like, you know, where's the subject verb object or subject verb predicate. And so at the beginning, right, polar bears have taken up residence. It gives us the base clause and then builds on it within the marmalade walls of an abandoned weather station, the lone dwelling of a small island in the, right? Like it does all of this work of kind of giving you the information you need and then embroidering it. And then at the end, like look at that last sentence, you don't get it till the very end, right? I hope they'll find the remains of my glacial wall candor. Sorry, and even though I didn't do much to stop it, right? And that starting with and is like, it's not, it's good style in Hebrew and Greek, right? Which is why we associate with kind of biblical translations, because that's normal in like Hebrew and Greek and Aramaic, but not in English. So it signals to you that something else is coming, that it's like this continuation, even though I didn't do much to stop it. And so you don't get to the final, that I was one of the good ones, right? As like the landing. And so the way in which this sort of like is playing with the sentence. I'm making weird hand gestures that you can't see because on Zoom. Sorry. So I know it's a podcast. It's like when you're like nodding, you're like on the phone with your grandma when you're like 4 and your mom is like, you have to say it. She can't see you nodding. But I felt like there was a really careful control over the way that the sentences are spooled out and that it needed the line breaks, that there was that the way that the line breaks were parsing it, that if this were a prose poem, you would lose so much, right? Or if this were if this were like a paragraph,
right,
you would want the rest of the essay, right? That there's something about the lineation that also creates a sense of completeness. And it has to do with the way that it opens with the base clause and ends with the base clause, that it kind of pulls you through,
right.
so that you kind of start and land, and then you're kind of in a spin through the middle of the poem.
A spin, Dr. Schneiderman? A spin? Like
it's a technical term.
The spiral of a sonnet, Dr. Schneiderman?
There aren't that many shapes. I'm sorry. There aren't. There are squares and circles. There are edges and curves and spirals.
I'm bust praising on Jason because he wrote this magnificent essay about the shapes that sonnets take, and he talks about them as spirals, right? Gyres or helixes. It's wonderful to hear you talk about this poem in that way too, like the way that it just sort of spins into that wholeness and completeness, because I think you're absolutely right. Like if this were a prose piece, it would feel like a piece of something larger, perhaps, right? Perhaps, but as is, it's whole and complete and does poem good.
Is there any relevance?
Does poem well.
It does poem good.
Is there any relevance to the fact that I saw the Spin Doctors last night?
Yeah,
and you said
Princess?
spin? Does it spin, Dr. Schneider?
I did. Spin Doctors.
Oh my God. The
You're like
Spin
that.
Doctors are still together?
Yes. And I'll tell you what, the lead singer can move. Yeah. They were really, it was a free show. You know, they were paid, but by like Camden County Parks. It was a free show at a river, at Cooper River by me.
Right.
Wait, so have you been like on the Spin Doctors train the whole time? Like all of us like got on at like Two Princes and Kryptonite and got off. And like have you been on this train for like 30
everybody?
years?
No, absolutely not. Did you hear the part? Free concert.
Free.
Okay.
Free.
All right.
Yeah, you know, they're really lovely to go to. This is literally across the water from me. Like if I could walk on water, I would have been at the show in 6 minutes. You know? And it's
You can't walk on water?
Manifest that.
you bring your own chair. Well, I know I am miraculous, but the walking on water, I have
You
not
walk on water to me.
gotten
In
down.
my heart, in my heart.
Yeah, you bring your own chair and you bring your own beverages, whatever they might be, and you sit and enjoy music outside. It's lovely.
All right, I think if we are on to the gyrations of the spin doctors, we should
Wait,
probably
can I ask like people under 40? Have you ever heard of the spin doctors? Like Isabel, is this like anywhere on your radar?
Yes,
Manuel?
I know the
Oh.
spin doctor.
Oh, okay, all right. I did not
do
know
know
if they
them.
retain cultural relevancy or not.
I
Well,
don't
hold
know.
on, hold on. Go ahead as well.
You guys always ask me these like younger generation questions, and I don't know if I'm like an appropriate representation of my generation. I'm not sure.
Well,
Well,
Manuel,
part of what I do is
I want to hear what
well,
Manuel thinks. Do you know who the spin
Manuel.
doctors are?
I do not know who they are, but also I'm not American, so maybe that also has to do with it.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, there is that one song they do still play. Just go ahead now. That one.
Two princes. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Marry him or marry me. I'm the one who loves you, baby. Can't you see? Ain't got
yeah,
no
that.
Go,
rich
Yeah.
or
Jason, go,
family tree,
Jason.
but that was deep in the memory banks. No, part of my
People
fascination with this, and I
dancing.
apologize for putting you on the spot, is like as hailing you with the Althusserian sense as young people, tell us what you think. Yes, because I spent my entire because I started teaching college in my 20s, and I was so anxious about my age that I spent all this time dropping pop culture references to age me. So I would literally like reference things from like I would like I you know the thing like the joke on Hot in Cleveland where they had to take like 10 years off of everything. Like I was adding like 5 years to everything. And so now that I'm comfortably old, now that I am now that I've entered my like gray-haired
Name drop
wisdom.
Beethoven. Okay, bravo.
All right.
But we should get
Let's
back to the
vote.
poem. Sorry, back to the poem.
Let's vote. Not
Okay.
on the spin doctors, but on this
All right.
poem.
On this
Let's
poem.
go. 1, 2, 3, vote. And it's in. Woohoo! Unanimous. Thank you so much, Sean Wojtowicz. We're very excited and honored and appreciative and all of those words. And now I think Lisa is going to read Wild for us. Poem number 2.
All right. Wild. The rugs haven't been cut in a long while, and the shag is starting to tickle my chin. It's up to my neck, which is sometimes how I feel navigating the jungle of my life, which germinated from the garden of my childhood and went mostly untended for the first quarter or so. Yes, it's been some time since I backpacked through nightclubs, traversed the landscape of closing time, tossed the map on an LSD trip. Right now, I am deadheading petunias on my back deck. My 2 kids are sleeping. The dog is chasing lightning bugs. My wife is finishing a glass of Moscato and will soon be waiting for me in our bed. Earlier today, I added boat-tailed grackle to my backyard bird list. My zucchini is starting to flower, and so is, for the first time, the southern magnolia planted a few springs back. The groundhog I named Big Orange is on his hind legs, taking in the evening news. And as the sun moves to give someone else a turn with the light, I consider that this might be the wildest I've ever been.
Oh, well done.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Such a great reading of this poem. Grackle. I just like saying grackle. Grackle.
Oh.
It's a good word. Good bird.
I
Strange
love
bird.
the opening conceit. I love the rug growing, the sort of the shag rug, becoming like grass going to seed or corn stalks.
I wonder if this is a pandemic poem. It feels like a pandemic poem to me.
Mhm. Yeah, and that image of the rug growing reminds me, what's that little kid's book, Where the Wild Things Are? Right? Yeah.
Oh,
I kind of wanted to stay in it. I was sort of sad when I ended up in a real backyard.
Mm.
Like wanted to stay
Mhm.
in the the shag carpet overgrowing from indoors. Like I kind of wanted that.
I like the juxtaposition of those two things, and the first glimmer I really get of it is with the court, like thinking of your life in quarters, right?
Mm.
For the first quarter or so. Yes, it's been some time since I backpacked through nightclubs or, dropped acid. Um, Quarter is interesting because it almost sounds like bureaucratic administrative speak. It's almost like the language of adulthood creeping into the language of the party, and that the two things are coexisting in that sentence is it's sort of like doing the same thing as the major metaphor, right? So I like what it's doing at the macro level with that metaphor, and then in the sentence, stitching of the two.
It could also be school or a game,
Yeah, right. That's right. And I love the phrase deadheading and deadheading petunias. Like, it's such a necessary gesture for a big garden, right? Or a healthy garden is to like take the heads
I
off.
miss deadheading.
Yeah.
I love that is the line after the tripping acid.
Yeah. Yeah.
How opposite of a thing could you be doing?
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Yeah, but
maybe
then
we have
deadhead.
play. I
Right,
just realized
deadhead,
that now
yeah.
that deadhead.
You get the fun, right?
But deadheading petunias, like when I see my neighbors who are that engaged in their gardening that they even know to do that stuff,
Yeah.
like I'm always kind of like blown away because I don't do that stuff. But like to go from an LSD trip to deadheading petunias was just so great for me. And to be honest with you, at a point I was like, wow, we're really getting one hell of a list here, right? But then that line at the end made it all like, oh, like I loved it. I love that line. Made
Might be
all
the
of
wildest
that.
I've been.
Yeah, made all those details.
Yeah.
I don't know, like come into more, have so much more meaning, right? Instead of being meaningless activities or details of the life. Was all the sense making in that last line, and I just loved it.
I did really appreciate the way it was phrased in a very novel fashion as the sun moves to give someone else a turn with the light.
Yeah. I like that too. You never think of it like that. Give someone else a turn. Delight.
And there's that penultimate and, right? Like the turn into the end of the poem begins with an and, as it did in the earlier one as well.
I really like that glass of Moscato. I don't know why I'm so like there are some spaces where like the specific details. Like I don't love backpack through nightclubs. Like I get how that, sort of brings in the natural world and the human world, and like I mean I understand the sort of continuation of the image system, but it doesn't really work for me. But then that Moscato is so specific.
Yeah, that's the other thing that makes me forgive the list. I hate to say like I'm having a problem with the list, but the specificity of the list and the variedness. Now I think Moscato is god awful wine, but I'm really glad that we have a specific wine named. Although I'd like to talk to his wife.
Do you know a Moscato story?
No.
The sommelier refused to serve me Moscato a dean took me to a very fancy restaurant, and I asked for a glass of Moscato and the sommelier said no. And I said, really? And he was like, it is a dessert wine now.
That's fabulous.
Love it.
I love that story. That's the kind of sommelier I would be. Like, nope.
No.
I can't allow it because I can't bear witness to it. I cannot watch you.
Great. That's great. All right, but okay, on the Moscato line though,
I like
right?
Moscato.
Again with the line breaks in this poem, right? For this poet rather. Where did the Moscato line go? Come here, Moscato. Here, right. Okay, so the dog is chasing line break lightning bugs. My wife is finishing a glass, line break, of Moscato and will soon be, line break, waiting for me in our bed, period. Earlier today, I added boat-tailed grackle, line break. You know what I mean? Like there's something really fascinating to me that waiting for me in our bed, period, earlier today, line break, sits as one unit of thought, because
Mhm.
it had this poet dropped earlier today to the next line, which it intuitively makes sense, right? It would actually detract from the system or the cycling, right, that's happening in the poem, right? So like she's waiting in bed, day over, but earlier today sits on the same line. So you get a sense of the repetition, and then the accretion of this, the specificity of that list sort of builds into the ending, right? Like, and again, slushies, you can't see me, I'm making a spiral with my finger, and I'm waiting for whatever, like this new version of Zoom to come up with either balloons or heart or whatever the symbol is going to be, right? That comes with, again, a sense of spiraling, not just listing in the poem.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that list and how it envelops all the other people in the poem and creatures. And it's right in that section where we hear the status, like the current status of all the other creatures, right? The kids are sleeping, the dog is chasing, the wife is finishing, the zucchini is starting. You know, so it's like, it's, while it is this speaker, this I point of view, it is kind of a more global perspective, a more generous perspective. And I think that's one of the charms of this poem.
Mhm. Great. And that cycling too, Marion, would speak to what Lisa said about maybe this is during the pandemic as well,
Right,
you know?
yeah.
And I also like, I think I love that last line too, because, when you're younger, I guess, I don't know, I think most people don't have, maybe you just, because you don't have property, you're not really
Yeah.
engaged with nature. You know what I mean? So it probably is the wildest he's ever been to actually be planting things, growing things, seeing wild animals in his yard, right? That doesn't happen when you're in a dorm or an apartment in a city, it's very different, right?
And that, Kathy, that really gets to the sort of what I think is a genius moment of describing a groundhog taking the evening news.
Yeah.
I'll never not use that phrase now, right? Like just rearing up on his back legs, checking it out, right? Like, I mean, I see that, right? But and again, there it is too. Like you're like that matching of the wild and the human
Yeah. I noticed that he named the groundhog Big Orange, right? And people do that too. I'm always like, you don't know that's the same fox, right? But people love to name the fox in the yard and, all of it. So, yeah, that's right. Naming the groundhog is pretty terrific as well. Big Orange.
I did love as the sun moves to give someone else a turn with the light. That kind of anthropomorphic imagination again, when it's so
Yeah.
subtle,
Mhm.
that's where I love these poems the most.
Yeah.
That sounds like a cue for a vote. Because we
Yeah.
do have one more.
We have one more.
One more poem. One more poem. Oh, wait.
You're right.
Okay, but we're gonna vote first. We're gonna vote. Okay. I was back at the concert. 1, 2, 3.
On three, say spin doctor.
1, 2, 3, vote. Woo-hoo. Look at you, John Watteau. It's 2 for 2.
Watowitz.
And unanimous again.
John Watowitz. John
All
Watowitz.
right.
I want to read this next poem, John Watowitz.
You do it, Marion.
When the turbo air jets kick on, we spent our state tax refund on an inflatable hot tub, a bottle of peach wine, and a couple fillets of Alaskan salmon. Also, a bundle of asparagus I picked up at a carport farm stand. Currently, we're soaking in low-class luxury, our investments already paying dividends. But most moments feel like scrambling to hold on to singles in one of those boardwalk money-blowing machines. Grab what you can before your time is up. On the Atlantic City Expressway, a billboard continues to advertise a Dionne Warwick concert months after the last notes of Walk On By strolled down the strip, and this stagnation has WAYV 95.1 taking calls. Some commuters expressing annoyance at the lack of change in scenery, and others expressing concern for the financial health of the Golden Nugget Casino. The station gets back to the music with Do You Know the Way to San Jose, which drifts across the lawn as the turbo air jets kick on. We clink plastic wine glasses, relish our current status like the protected osprey couple nuzzled in their protected nest atop the Dionne Warwick billboard. Yes, we ease on the brakes to that hour when a story becomes a yarn and the sun rises because it's gradually pulled by a golden charioteer across humble sky.
Beautiful. Thank you.
I'm a little lost in the narrative. So because the radio station hasn't taken down the billboard for a concert whose run has ended, people are calling the radio station and they're concerned about what it means for the billboard not to have been changed even though the concert is over?
So I think it's a little bit more like regionally specific that
Okay.
I suspect, and I might be wrong, Kath, right? That the speaker has a property nearby the Atlantic City Expressway and is basically in their inflatable hot tub as traffic is jammed up on the Atlantic City Expressway and people caught in that commute to the beach are beefing about whatever they're beefing about, right? Simultaneously, there's a Dionne Warwick billboard, right? That the speaker is aware of and is making a comparison between the ospreys on the billboard on the maybe on the Atlantic City Expressway and them sitting in their hot tub nest.
Yeah,
So
I even read that they can't change the billboard because of the ospreys. But people are bitching. Some people are bitching about having to look at this Dionne Warwick ad from Golden Nugget Casino.
well, it's so funny. I'm not. It's you guys got more out of that than I did then, because I was just thinking they were bitching about being stuck in summer traffic.
Yeah, I thought it
So
was
the
that
change,
the billboard hadn't changed in a while and they were like, hey, this already happened. Come on.
Oh,
yeah,
I get you're right. And
they
the stagnation of
right.
the billboard. You're right. You're right. Right.
They literally say they're expressing
Right.
annoyance at the lack of the change in
Change in
scenery.
scenery. Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it. I was just thinking they were bitching about looking at each other and stuck in traffic.
But yes, I absolutely. He's making a triangle line between them and their hot tub compared to the people in the billboard. And what's kind of funny about that is all this like self degradation of like, we're broke rich, and all that stuff. So are those ospreys, right? They've made their home on the top of a billboard for an aging singer at the Golden Nugget. Right? And they're sitting in their backyard and spending their tax refund on the hot tub and questionable taste in wine again.
But I think the speaker's fully aware of all that. Fully aware, right?
What would the sommelier say, Jason?
I will not be served. Peach wine wasn't even on the I was on the list. It was on the menu. Like they wouldn't serve me. Yeah, peach wine was not on the menu.
No, it's not even on the menu, let alone with salmon.
But it's all pink. It matches.
So, and to call back to the
are they
spin
listening?
doctors, is Dionne Warwick even still around and performing?
Oh, I think she's alive. She's alive.
She's alive? Okay.
She's alive. This we know. Is she performing? No, the Golden Nugget sign is old. We don't know how, like, when this poem's from either, right? But Dionne Warwick, I think even if it's within the past 2 decades, this poem's now, right? Dionne Warwick is still a great name to throw out there because she would already be aging.
Right.
Right? She's been aging since what, the 70s, right? So
Well, I mean,
As,
her
when
heyday
was
was like
she
as
first
have
hot,
we
in
hot,
all.
hot?
but
Amen.
I'm just saying, when was she hot, hot, hot? Right? Decades ago.
but so are they listening to the radio while they're in the hot tub? When it says we're soaking in low class luxury, is that metaphorical or literal? And like, how is I'm sorry that I'm like having so
No, no.
many sort of technical problems with this phone. But so they're in the hot tub listening to the radio, and the people calling into the radio are
Yeah.
angry about the billboard because
Yeah.
they think it has to mean something. That it has to mean that the golden nugget is in danger. It has to mean that it has to mean something, but it doesn't.
Yeah, I don't think the husband and wife in the uh hot tub give a shit about the billboard. It's just being talked about on the radio.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, they're not concerned. He's just reporting what is being discussed. And then we
And
go
then just
back
across
to
the lawn as the tribute. Okay, so they're listening to the
right,
radio from the hot tub.
right.
And the synchronicity of Dionne Warwick, and then the radio plays "Do You Know the Way to San Jose?"
Which is her song.
Exactly.
Isabel, do you know that song?
I've
It's
been
before
beat.
my
This
time.
is the one I don't know.
So that's in the show
Know
notes,
the way
please.
to San
A link
Jose.
to a video of her singing that song.
Yeah.
I've
Okay.
been away so long.
And
I live
Manuel,
the wrong
Vivian, and
is the
Isabel,
right.
you all need to listen immediately afterwards.
Dionne Warwick. Right?
That's a great title
LA is
too.
a
Do you
great
know the
big
way to San
freeway.
Jose?
That is actually
Put
a good title for
$100
the
down and
episode.
buy a car.
Well, I like this poem, and I do like it against as a suite with the other two, which I am always loath to talk about poems that way,
Mhm.
but all of them are about nature and human nature and humans v animals, as well as humans living among animals. I like them as a suite.
Hmm. Can I devil's advocate for a moment?
Of course.
From the yes to the end, the last two stanzas. I don't know if I need that.
I'm totally with you, Marion.
I would love this poem to end with the Dionne Warwick billboard. Doink, and then let me figure out the right, because it's a little too on the nose. It doesn't give me much space.
Mhm. It's wrapped up in a bow, and I
Yeah.
get it without the bow. I get it with the billboard.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's such an easy edit, like just
Yeah.
a billboard,
Oh, you
doink.
guys are so right. I mean, he even literally already has it. He's just like the protected osprey couple. He's made the connection
Get it?
and doesn't have to make it again. And those lines are pretty heavy-handed. I wondered if people are going to react to those lines. So slushies, we may have mentioned this on the show before, so loyal listeners may have heard this, but we are loath to request edits and usually ask that a poem be exactly as we want it when it comes to us. However, even in a regular editorial meeting, if an edit is really easy, like the one Lisa and Marion just suggested, then we do sometimes ask the author how they'd feel if we ended it at Billboard. So it's up to us now to say, Jason and Isabel and Manuel, I did not hear, do you agree with Lisa and Marion's request? Would it be better with
And
they want to lop off the last two stanzas and have it end with atop the Dionne Warwick billboard?
If it's slushies, you cannot see the grimace on Jason's face right now. A moment ago, he was thinking like he was Rodin's sculpture, and now he's got a grimace face.
Here, make it again, because Isabel can put it on Instagram.
Make that grimace.
I have a poker face, slushies. No one ever knows what I'm
Whatever
thinking.
knows.
I just screenshot you, bitch.
You're like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. I understand what you're saying about it being redundant, really, those last two stanzas, and they use that heavy-handed language. But do we want it to end on the billboard?
I don't like the repetition of the word protected.
Yeah.
We cling
Mm.
plastic wine glasses, relish our current status, like the protected Osprey couple, which I think is important. I think that's information, right? That the Osprey couple is the reason that the billboard can't change because they're endangered. And so as
Right.
long as the Osprey couple is there, like that's what protected means. It doesn't mean that the billboard itself is protecting them,
Mhm.
even though I found that ambiguous. I found that a little confusing. But then when it comes back again, like the protected Osprey couple nuzzled in their protected nest atop the Dionne Warwick billboard, um, I, I mean, I want that repetition to be doing the work of emphasis, but it feels off to me. Like it
Yeah.
feels
Yeah.
like it's like a I mean these poems move, and again, like we don't want to ever make poets compete with themselves, right? Like, oh, your third poem wasn't as good as your first poem. It's like, well, you're both. You're the poet, you did them all. Um, but no, that it's a speed bump,
Mhm.
and usually his work is so smooth.
Mhm.
And so I don't know, like ending there might feel like ending on a speed bump to me.
Oh yeah.
Well, and we said that we don't do edits unless they're easy, but what if it were like the protected Osprey couple nuzzled atop the Dionne Warwick billboard?
Or like the Osprey couple nuzzled in their protected nest, like
Yeah.
just one of them out, you know.
Mm.
But now I feel
Yeah,
like
the rhythms fall apart.
they
Yeah.
do, right? Now I feel like I'm all up in this
The
poem.
rhythms fall apart. Yeah.
Right.
Hmm. Okay.
But everyone else, I'm the only one who had like a hard time sort of actually kind of just parsing the narrative, right? Like everyone else got that directly.
Well, clearly I got it half wrong, right? Like I was thinking
Okay.
all kinds of different things, but generally speaking, I understand what the scene is. I understand what the moment is, right? And what the commuters are complaining about. That I get it. I thought they were
That's
complaining.
only that you got way more than half right. You only that was just one little detail.
Yeah,
You thought they were bitching about something different. That's all.
yeah. But
But Manuel, where are
I
you
didn't have
on this? What are your thoughts about this poem?
Um, I I actually was rather geographically confused, like in terms of like during most of it, or maybe rather during the middle. Like I didn't know the like where the billboard was, like in accordance to like the hot tub. So I was also kind of actually not very I didn't know what was happening, to be honest, and that's why I actually like the last part, because it is then that I understand that they're like sort of in different places. Like at some point I thought that the hot tub was on the billboard, which is just because I that's just me, that's like but yeah, there was a little bit of a confusion. So for me it would actually be more like the middle part that I would suggest edits on, rather than the end. But I can see, yes.
Isabel, you didn't say anything either.
I had a bit I sounds mean. I don't want to be mean, but I didn't wasn't as much attracted to this poem as I was in the first two. I felt like with the scenery and the themes, it was a lot easier to completely fall into the first two poems and really be absorbed with them. And I think
Mhm.
with as everyone was kind of saying, I had a really hard time one connecting myself with the imagery, as I feel like as we were all confused with exactly what was going on. And I had a hard time connecting myself with that, which kind of really distanced me from the entirety of the poem and what it was really trying to get at, because I could, as I mean, as Jason and Marion were saying, is that this the kind of the confusion with the narrative. And as like I was looking at these last kind of like four stanzas that we were discussing, and I feel like even with like these edits and with these, it doesn't really emphasize like the clarity with what was going on. And again, like I don't know if it was just me, I don't know, but it feels like as all of us as an entirety are all kind of struggling with that clarity. So I don't know if like the edits would really fix.
Mm.
Lisa, what are your thoughts overall?
I appreciate this poet's position towards humans and nature and how we're a part of the natural world, part and parcel. But I do feel like maybe the locations in this last one distract from that focus a bit, in that we're not in the same stationary point of view. Like the first one, we're clearly on the island with the polar bears. And the second one, we're on the deck in the backyard. And this one, it's a little more scattered. I mean, I feel like the speaker and the partner are the whole time in the hot tub, but with the other perspectives, it's a little divided. And I think that makes the impact less resonant for me.
And we never talked about the image of the money blowing machines, which I haven't seen in like years. Like I mean, I used to see them everywhere now, like on TV and stuff. And now I was just like, oh yeah, I haven't seen one of this in a long time. But like it's sort of it's weird to me that we didn't sort of attend to the individual images in this poem in the way that we did the other ones. But I think it's because that like larger trajectory of the poem isn't kind of pulling us through in the as seamlessly.
Jason, like tied to that too, I really appreciate what Manuel said, like that without that regional knowledge, without the geography, so to speak, right? Like these images seem sort of free floating. And for me, as someone who grew up in New Jersey, Atlantic City, the expressway, those boardwalk games, like that's all part of a universe of imagery that I just take in and take for granted. So I'm like 100% with this poet, right? In the like both the geographical and economic setting that's being drawn, right? And so I wonder if that's part of it too, right? Like the amount, a particular kind of reader is going to fill in those gaps, whereas obviously others are not, right? So and in that way I can see what Kathy said, like how this poem really functions as in a suite with the other two, right? With these issues of like a kind of middle class experience, right? Well, especially the second
Well, once you pointed out the parallelism or the sort of the mirroring of the couple in the inflatable hot tub and the ospreys on the billboard and this kind of precarity, right? This sort of like that the ospreys are protected because they're endangered, which, you know, creates a kind of concern about this couple and this sort of, you know, like I don't know how long the inflatable hot tub lasts, but it can't be that long.
Right.
And so there are kind of all of these, you know, like I do feel like there's all this really amazing stuff kind of happening, but I didn't get to it. Like I sort of needed it to be pointed out, and then I was like, oh right, like oh, there's so much going on here, and yet like it feels like it hasn't sort of like risen to the top yet. Like it hasn't sort of like floated up to the surface of the poem.
Well, I hate to rush a discussion.
Yeah.
But
We should vote.
all right.
Yeah. I think we should vote. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, vote. Okay. We're going to take a pass on this one, but we're so excited to have the other two. So very, very grateful.
Yay.
And thank
Yay,
you.
Dawn voted.
Yay, 2 for 3 is not. It's
So
amazing.
great.
It's amazing.
So great.
Thank you so much. And
Wait.
thank you so much for everybody for being here around the world. And yeah, that's it. Slushies, let us know how we're doing and keep on reading. And thank you. Woohoo!
Yay.
Yay.
Go team. Go team, go
Go
team.
team. Yeah.